What up, though, One Pride? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where One Pride goes worldwide. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined this evening by Ryan McCluskey. It's a Wednesday, which can only mean one thing. We are back with the college football podcast, Shrine on Me. Ryan, we are at the end of January. The Detroit Lions are still playing football, but for us here in the college football world, we are a week away from one of the biggest weeks of the season in regards to the path to the draft. The Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl, they're coming up, and for a lot of prospects, can make or break the draft value.
Yeah, these are like the two pinnacles of the All-Star games. These are the two that they jump to take their places because you get the chance to work with some of the best and most high-profile coaches, and they're quite highly thought of at these two games.
Exactly. Some of the best coaches and then the Chicago Bears staff who were there as well. So that is going to be the focus for us this evening. The first week we're going to do about the Shrine Bowl today, and then next week we're going to do about the Senior Bowl because the two run concurrently with one another. They don't start for a fortnight. So we've got the Shrine Bowl in now, and we've got the big one, the Senior Bowl next week. So what we're going to do is we're going to break the roster down, kind of like we did with the Hula Bowl, but we're going to do it different this time because there's like 120 players at these things, and you try to do a little profile for everybody in the Hula Bowl. Like, there's just stuff you can go and Google and that you'll know, and it takes forever and it's a pain in the arse. So what we've done is we've kind of broken it down into, we've picked our own all-star teams. So like quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, one guy in the position group to really talk about that we like. And then, I'll go down the whole roster as we're going along. And if there's anyone you want us to look at, we will. But we just want to be able to focus a bit more in depth on some guys rather than doing everybody a little bit, because it's pain in the neck doing that many guys at once. Just before we do, let's get all the housekeeping out the way. So Roar Lions UK Discord, if you want in, let us know. We will fire you a link out for that. Main podcast will be back on Friday. We will be previewing the Detroit Lions in an NFC Championship game. I still cannot get used to hearing that phrase against the San Francisco 49ers, one game away from the Super Bowl. It is unreal, and a lot of the guys are going to be on for that. So come and join us. It's going to be a big, fun festival to celebrate us getting there. Don't forget to like and sub to everything, Twitch, YouTube, all that good stuff. Don't forget about Lions Nation Unite. We are a part of Herman Moore's project to bring together the best in Lions content creators from around the YouTube land. And don't forget, we are an affiliate on Twitch. We're monetized on YouTube. We've got a tip jar. So if you want to help us that way, great. But we just love having you all in the building, and we've got a feedback form as well. So if you've got any suggestions for the show, anything you want us to know about, just let us know and we will take that on board. Right, all the housekeeping-y, boring things out the way. So let us get on with this. If anyone watching has any questions during the night, just let me know. This will be a recorded playback because still struggling with the whole streaming thing, but I will be in the chat on the evening if you've got anything to ask as well, so you can have a chat with me there. Right, let's get down into Shrine Bowl roster. And as we've gone through the week and I've done my team and Ryan's done his, there are a lot of exciting players for us to check out. So as I say, we're gonna have a look at some of them in more detail for you. So we're gonna start on the offense in the quarterback room. So overall, we've got 6 guys. So we've got Austin Reed from Western Kentucky, Devin Leary from Kentucky, Jack Plummer from Louisville, Keaton Slovis from BYU, John Rice Plumley from UCF, and then we've also got Jordan Travis, the Florida State quarterback. He will not be playing in the game because he's still recovering from that devastating leg injury he got during the season, but he's going to be there doing interviews on the sideline. So he is a part of the 6 there. Got a couple of returning guys here, right? Obviously Plummer, Plumley, both at the Hula Bowl, and then we've got some new ones in the building: Reed, Leary, Slovis. But who have you picked out at quarterback for this one?
So I have picked the curious case of Keaton Slovis. So very interesting person. So The guys played for the USC Trojans, the Pitt Panthers, and finished this year with the BYU Cougars. 6'3", 100 kilos, and if you go back to 2019 when he was a freshman, he took the world by storm. He went 282 of 392 at a 71.9% completion rate with 30 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and 3,500 yards. And he also ate the most sacks of his career as a freshman. And everywhere, everyone was convinced this kid was going to set the world on light. But unfortunately, after that, the next 4 years couldn't have been any more disappointing. So across the last 4 years, let's say we finished up with USC, but also had Pitt and BYU. He had 2 years of 60+% completion percentage and 2 under 60+% complete percentage. He went from roughly 7,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, but to a 30 touchdown interception rate across the last 4 years compared to his freshman year. The issue is lacks mobility to scramble, to evade pressure in the pocket. He is a pocket passer. He has got a brilliant cannon arm. He can make every throw in the book, every pretty throw, everyone that's needed. He's got the touch it all needs. But across, I think, every year he has rushed for more than 20 carries, and every year he's finished with less than minus 60 rushing yards. So he is a solid, stable, pro-style pocket passer. And I say he's kind of like fallen a bit off of a cliff, which it's not fair. He's had injuries. Like I say, he's had like 4 offensive coordinators and like 3 or 4 head coaches. At 22 years old, I still believe the freshman Keaton is still there, the kid that set the world alight. Not everything has gone his way. He has struggled, but if you're looking for a guy to like mold and just park for a few years in a pro-style offense that does want someone that can sit in the pocket and then can pick a team off, who won't ask too much to do with their legs, no divine passes, I think Keaton probably is the guy out of all these guys that has got youth experience of playing in championship games, did play in a Pac-12 championship, has been at like numerous bowl games, has gone on 4 or 5 game-winning stretches. So he's done everything at big programs. It's kind of just never come together for him in the last few years. And that's with all the chopping and changing, unfortunately. But yeah, there's a quarterback there, and we've seen it. It's just been a long time since we've seen it. So he really needs this game because this year for him, it didn't go all that well for BYU in their first year in the Big 12. It was a struggle.
That shocks me that he's 22. I would have thought he was like 24. It feels like he's been around forever. That is.
He came straight out of high school. I think he even enrolled
Yeah.
early.
Well, like I say, when they start as a true freshman, then all of a sudden the age just sort of plummets and you carry on, I guess, don't you? But yeah, going to be interesting to see Keaton for sure. I've kind of gone a little bit more on so John Rice Plumlee for me. I talked about him at the Hula Bowl, but again, I'm sort of really intrigued by him in terms of this draft and a late round stash who you could create into something at the NFL level. So he's a 5-year vet, 3 years at Ole Miss, 2 years at UCF. He's 469 of 766 passing, which is 61%, just a bit above. 5,890 yards, 34 touchdowns, 19 picks. He's got 2,800 rushing yards at 6.8 yards per carry. So basically 28 rushing touchdowns, 23 fumbles. He's 6 foot exactly, 200 pounds. He's been a high-level dual threat guy during his career. Wasn't really much of a passer to start with, but we've seen it the last couple of years when he's been in this UCF system. So they operate the RPO system there. So he's quite instinctual on when to run, when not to run, doing all the quick reads that come with the RPO system. The ball security with him has improved. It was a big problem. He had 11 fumbles in his first year with UCF. That came down to just 4 this year and didn't throw a whole bunch of picks in there either. He's elite against the blitz. He grades like 93 against the blitz because, again, with his legs, his ability to escape, if someone does come at him and he picks it up, he's more than capable of getting out of harm's way there. So it's a real strength of his. He's led one of the most fearsome offenses in the country. I think UCF in total offensive yardage in this first year were first in the nation. They were 9th this year, but they average over 480 yards per game with him at the helm. He's got a smaller frame, but he takes plenty of hits as a runner. He's been very durable. They only missed a couple of games this year. I think it was weeks 3 and 4 he missed. But apart from that, a lot of health, and he's not had that many knocks. say he's proven, he's tough, he's durable. The deep passing's a little bit of an issue with him. There's technical issues there because, again, in the RPO, quick reads, short passes, intermediate passes, you sort of pepper that part of the field. But then when you're trying to throw it a little bit deeper, there's something that doesn't quite work with him, and his numbers tail off dramatically. And he also struggles when he has to stand and deliver against pressure, and he doesn't pick up the blitzers as well. So there are a couple of things he has to work with. And also, can he work outside of the RPO? Can he work in a traditional pro style offense? These are the sort of questions with him. But overall, like, when you've got the legs, you've got the rushing ability, you rush at 7 yards per clip over your entire career. That's really good. And his arm is a lot better than we anticipated initially. He got the range of throws, just a few technical issues with him. So I think something can be done with him. I think if we see him these games, if we see him take a few deep shots, we see him play his natural game, I think a lot of people will start to take notice of him, and you might be able to see him in that sort of day 3 area to go and get a guy. But I like him. If he ever ended up on my team and we used him, I'd be more than happy. So Plumlee would be my guy there. And Ryan's taking a look at Slovis. Let us go into the running back room now. And some really interesting running backs on display. So we've got Isaac Guerendo from Louisville, Frank Gore Jr., we all know that name from Southern Miss, Carson Steele from UCLA, Tyrone Tracy Jr. from Purdue, Blake Watson from Memphis, Deshaun Fenwick from Oregon State, Jaden Sheridan from Monmouth, and Jonathan Brooks from Texas. Believe Brooks is doing what Travis is, and he's there for interviews and stuff, but he's still rehabbing off injury. Currently, we saw Tracy, Watson, and Fenwick at the Hula Bowl, so they all got calls up to this on the back of their work there. Ryan, who you've been taking a look at in the running back room?
I've actually gone with the FCS product here. So I've gone with Jaden Sheridan. So the minuscule Mike, like the danger mouse, as you could call him. So the Monmouth Hawks. He's been there for 3 or 4 years now. He's very short in stature at 5'8", and about 80 kilos. What does that make him, like Devon Atchin kind of size, maybe something like that? Yeah. In the last 2 years, he has proven that he can be a bell cow. So 22 and 23, 427 carries, roughly, but over 3,200 yards and 23 touchdowns. He has absolutely chewed up ground for that Hawks offense behind a strong offensive line. He has shown that he's able to catch balls out of the backfield. He's willing to pass block if needs be, but being shorter, like I said, being less physical, that can be difficult against bigger guys. But he shows the balance. He shows the ability to break a tackle in the open field, and he has got the ability to finish in the red zone. He is willing to put his pads down, shoulders down, lowest man wins. And in 2022, I believe he had like a 95-yard, and that was his longest rush of the year. So he has got that, like, I can shoot you out of a cannon, that home run ability that once he's gone and gets in behind your defense, you really will struggle to catch him. And if you do try to grab him too high or don't wrap up, he is kind of like a bar of soap. He will slip out. He will make you punish if you don't go all technique. No good just like laying the wood off him. He'll bounce right off you, like I said, and that's kind of the product now. We're seeing the league go. We're seeing smaller backs start to do good things. We're seeing guys like that it's not always now about the Derrick Henrys and the Leonard Fournettes. The smaller guys are starting to find ways to win. He will have to show that he can probably make this work on special teams to earn those kind of carries at the running back, but he's got the skill set, the size as well to make him a potentially dynamic returner in a punt or a kick return game. But yeah, heavy workload at Monmouth. And he has shown that he has been able to carry that and kind of like just keep going and keep chugging, despite that lack of weight behind him. And no real lack of like alarming injury history, anything. Like you say, he's just kept plowing, kept the head down, kept the shoulders square, and keeps going. And for a small school guy, like he will benefit the most from this. Like I say, because he's got a lot to prove, but also he can go out there and probably like raise a few eyebrows if he does well at the week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I say, with the smaller guys, it's a new age for them now. New systems, new ways to get them in space, new ways to utilize them. There's nothing that you can't do with guys like this now. He had like 1,700 yards last year. He led the FCS in rushing yards the year previous. Like 1,700 yards is nothing to sniff at. Right. So I got a couple of guys here on mine. So the first one, he was going to be in here eventually, but Frank Gore Jr., son of the legendary Frank Gore Sr. So he spent 4 years at Southern Miss. His stats: 757 rush attempts, 3,985 rushing yards, going at 5.2 yards per carry, 26 touchdowns, only 8 fumbles in that entire time on 750 carries. As a receiver, he's got 75 receptions on 94 targets for 695 receiving yards with 4 touchdowns. And as a quarterback, because he's been a quarterback, he's 17 of 35. It's only a 49% completion, but he's a running back, don't forget. He's an emergency QB. 368 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, and just one pick. So he is 5'8" and 195 pounds of literal steel. Just like his dad, he will keep relentlessly running the ball at you till you break. He's hard to bring down. He's forced 150 missed tackles in the last 2 seasons alone, and he has 2,800 yards after contact in his career. He plays through injury. He was injured at the start of this season, didn't miss a single game. That's why he had a little bit of a slow start, but he never quits. He just keeps on going out there. The smaller frame, it allows him to get skinny in crowds and to sort of lose the attention that's on him, and he's able to break out big even when it's in a crowded room for him. But the attitude with him shines the most. Like, he stepped up to play emergency quarterback because, like, the 2022 season, I think it was, they went through about 6 different quarterbacks. He stepped in to play quarterback for his team. He plays running back. He plays receiver. He's toughed it out through injury. And very weirdly, he stayed loyal to that program for 4 years when he could have gone to a much bigger team on a much bigger scale. But he didn't. He stayed. And I really admire that about him. He's a handy receiver. Like I said, 700 yards, 4 touchdowns. They've started using him more out the back in recent years as well. And, going up to the NFL, having that dual threat ability is needed. The frame is the issue. So he doesn't have like breakneck speed like some of the smaller guys, like Ryan mentioned, A-Chain, guys like that use sort of breakneck speed to be able to separate themselves a bit more. He doesn't have that. He's going to take a lot of contact in the NFL, but I mean, he comes from a lineage where his dad took contact. He's got 16,000 rushing yards in the NFL. He's the same size as him. Like, if anyone's going to overcome a lack of size and a lack of speed in the NFL through knowledge, it's him. So, it's all built on defying that. He's coming from a group of 5 teams, so the opposition step up is going to be big, but that's what these bowl games are for. So you've got that there. And also, he works special teams. He works on the punt coverage unit. So he's just about as versatile as you're going to get with any of the running backs out there. And, where he's come from, he's going to get picked. I just don't know how high at this moment in time. But I don't know right about you, but I think he's got his ability to be, well, he'll probably never be as good as dad, but no one talks about him as a running back in the NFL. But I think he'll do just fine.
Oh yeah, I think he's got all the talent in the world. Like I say, he's carried that Southern Miss offense in recent years that sometimes without him has looked devoid of any real spark. Like, he's shown that he is every bit as physical as his dad. Like I say, maybe a bit faster. Like I say, maybe better hands. Like I say, that God wasn't always known for. But the fact like he can throw a ball, the fact he could kind of do some fun stuff with him. Like I say, he's moldable. He's durable. He's going to be the kind of kid that'll kind of do whatever asked of him. Like I say, he'll just want a chance, and he's really likable. And we can't really deny as well that the name, it carries weight. These famous kids, like I say, it goes a long way towards actually making the step next level. Someone will definitely take a chance on him. Like I say,
Oh,
just stack him for a couple of years and see if he does break out or if you have to call him up for injury. But yeah, I've seen like he kind of entered the scene as like, oh, it's Frank's kid, like you say, what can he do? But next thing you know, like you say, he's getting national media attention, like you say, having like monster 170-yard rushing games, like, and against good competition as well. Like I
Yeah.
said, no one can deny that Southern Miss has not bred some real proper talent in the last few years. Like I said, it's an ever-growing conference, and he's been part of a really strong ground offense.
Yeah, and he holds the bowl record for most rushing yards in a bowl game. I think it was 320 yards he got the season before last. The dude is amazing. The other guy I wanted to highlight before we move on to the receivers is Blake Watson. So he was a guy at the Hula Bowl. I've done a little more on. So yeah, running back, 4 years at the Old Dominion Monarchs, then did his last year at Memphis. So his stats, 591 carries, 3,305 rushing yards, going at 5.6 yards per clip, 28 touchdowns, just 6 fumbles on 600 carries. He's 113 of 132 on receptions, so really good hands. 931 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns. So he's 5'9", 195. So another smaller running back, but there is a lot to love here. So he's done things the right way. He redshirted his first year at Old Dominion. Then he showed out on special teams as year 2 as a kick returner. He had 640 return yards on just 24 returns, averaging 27 yards per return. Then he had to wait for a year because Old Dominion lost 2020 to COVID. He didn't transfer, so he had to wait another year, but then he finally got into the team and, he didn't look back after that. He had seasons of 1,117 rushing yards and 921 rushing yards. And that preceded his transfer to Memphis for his last year to do it at a bit of a bigger school. He had 1,151 yards and 14 touchdowns this year. He is the epitome of consistency these last 3 years on the ground, and he started showing out as a receiver in the last two. The last year at Old Dominion, the first year at Memphis is where like 800 of his 900 yards have come from. Again, showed great loyalty to a small school. 4 years at Old Dominion, hacked it out during COVID. I love the attitude to stay there and do the best for the team, and then just be like, I'll have 1 year for myself at the end to go and do it on a bigger stage for my drafting. I do not mind that at all. His identification and processing skills are elite. I've seen him, like when I did the review years ago on Jamar Jefferson, the one thing that stood out was like his ability to see the gaps opening, to hit them. This guy's really good at this. I really, really like him. He's versatile as a receiver. They use him in motion a hell of a lot. Like, send him out on the screens, send him out on the wide routes. You can do all sorts with this guy. Now, the problem is the age. Obviously, he's a sixth-year senior, so he's going to be older, about 25. But again, I don't have issues with that because running backs, the life of a running back in the NFL ain't the longest. If they come in older, you can still get 5, 6 years and you'll be absolutely fine. The size concerns a little smaller. The blocking is not great, but he's got the special teams ability. He's got everything he needs to, just needs to work on that blocking a bit. So I think Blake Watson is another guy at running back who is just highly underappreciated. He's going under the radar. So I'm going to be keeping a big eye out for him in this one. Right. Let us move on to the receivers. And let me get the list of receivers up here. And I need to make sure I say all these right. So we've got Ledeatrick Griffin from Mississippi State, Jaquan Jackson from Tulane. Then we've got the Washingtons, Taj from USC, and Malik from Virginia. We've got Bub Means from Pittsburgh, Anthony Gould from Oregon State, Isaiah Williams from Illinois, Jalen Coker from Holy Cross, and David White Jr. from Western Carolina. Both of those guys, you remember, were at the Hula Bowl. Got Ryan Flournoy from Southeast Missouri State, also at the Hula Bowl. Then we got the Yankee brothers, twins brothers, can't remember, Jaden and Jackson from South Dakota State. We've got Cornelius Johnson from Michigan and Tavion Robinson from Kentucky. And I know exactly where we're going to be going for this. So, Rai, who have you had a look at for wide receiver?
So I've got two guys here, and I've got very contrasting guys. So I'll start with, So the Yankees. Now I've picked Jackson. Like I say, they're both, they're twins. They're
Oh, the
both
twins.
like 6'3",
Right.
210. So yeah, like frame wise, they're built the same. And frankly, they play the same game. Now I believe they're both hometown kids. They're both from Madison, South Dakota. I believe they both walked on as well. I'm pretty sure they were not offered scholarships, or at least one of them did. And so Jackson, 5 years in the last 21 to 23, 180 catches for over 2,900 yards and 19 touchdowns. They were gonna both leave last year, but they said, nope, we're gonna come back, we're gonna defend our national title. And they did do it this year. Like I say, they are two of the most physically dominating, like I say, FCS receivers probably the last 4 years. Like I say, they are not to be trifled with whatsoever. They have done such the dirty work on the outside as fantastic blockers for Isaiah Davis, their star back. They have, like I say, got hold of defensive backs, safeties to the next level. They've pinned guys to the sideline. They really do take pride in that stuff. But they are big, physical, solid possession receivers on the outside. They can hold their own against some of the bigger, stronger guys. They've got good frames. They've got expanded route trees. They are jackrabbits through and through. Like I say, collectively between them, they've played like 9 seasons, and they have like the hold school records between them for like receiving, touchdowns, for average catches, and they have been brilliant in their future. Both of them, it's going to be hard to tell them apart at the next level. I'd say it's going to be quite difficult to find differences between them, how they're going to stand out. They play a very similar game, and the fact they've played on the same team may hurt them in the long run. Like I said, they've not exactly had the chance to stand out from one another. So it'd be interesting to see how Jackson does do, or how Jaden does do, how they differ from one another. But yeah, they're both strong possession body receivers with good route trees. They're really good in the red zone as well. They understand how, like I said, to box people out, how to work the end zone, how to work the goal line, use their bodies because they're stronger physical guys. And they've laid everything on the line last 5 years. They could have declared last year. Like I said, they could have transferred as well. They could have gone to a Power 5 potentially, but they said, no, we're staying. Like I said, this is our hometown. We're going to do it all, or we're not going to do it at all. Yeah, they used up all their eligibility. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what they do, like I say, together, but hopefully more separate. I can see them both going separate ways. Like I say, how they both perform will be very interesting to see. One's had like 3 dominant years, one's had like 4, but they've been really trusted as jackrabbits. And then the other receiver I've got is Ladietrich Griffin. Now, this kid is only 5'8". He's only 80 kilos. Yeah, he's built like a matchstick. At Miss State, like you say, he's been there like 4 years. Last 2 years, he's done pretty well. 90 catches for 1,150 yards, 8 touchdowns, which is pretty good in an offense that has been fairly air raid, I'd say. But where he makes a difference is return specialist. In his career, 4 years, over 1,600 kickoff yard returns on only 56 returns. That's an average of 28.57 yards. That's more than a touchback he averages every single time he touches the ball. And he's had 2 touchdowns to go with that. He has got elite speed. He has got great vision. He follows blocks. And when the hole comes, he hits it. Like I say, he is going to be a game breaker at the next level. And he's going to have to make his name returning kicks, and that is how he'll get on the field as a receiver. But he has got those things you can't teach: speed, ball security as well, because we see way too many games changed like muff punts and kicks. Like I say, kickoff, he's as good as anybody in the nation. So these 2 like different contrasting styles of guys. One's a big bodied possession receiver, wins on the outside. This guy will win any which way you give him possible. Jet sweeps, receiving, running back, special teams. Like Ladietrich has really got the chance to turn some heads, especially if he can break off a big punt or a kick return. But yeah, he's going to be really fun to watch, because special teams, like, it's what separates like the average Joes, or like say the next big thing.
Good Lord, 28 per return. That is crazy. So yeah, we'll see if you're able to knock out a big one there in the Shrine Bowl when that comes up. So actually, this is weird. I've got 2 different guys, which is good because we've done these teams independent of one another. So the more we don't cross on, the more we get to go through. But the first guy I wanted to talk about was Malik Washington. I'd not really done anything on him before I came into this process, but I've watched a lot of his tape now, and I love what I see. So he's a 5-year guy. He had 4 years at Northwestern and then went to do his final year at Virginia. His stats, he's 230 of 321 on targets, 2,747 receiving yards, about 12 12 yards per reception, so steady. He's got 12 touchdowns, and he's got 274 yards on 13 kick returns, so does special teams work as well. So another small guy. There's a lot of smaller receivers here. He's 5'8", 194 pounds. Definitely a slot receiver. And he's a kick returner, as I mentioned. So he had a very nondescript 4 years at Northwestern. He had 1,200 yards and 3 touchdowns in his last 2 years, but he was never really fully utilized. And then he just blew up when he went to Virginia. Now, this was a Virginia room, bear in mind, that just lost Dontavian Wicks to the Packers last year in the draft, and K'Tion Thompson, who was their other big guy there. He reached 1,384 yards and 9 touchdowns this season. And just to put it into perspective, this is on a team, their third best receiver was the running back Kobe Pace, who had 176 yards. He had triple-digit receiving yards in all but 2 of the games this season, and one of them he got 97. So it was basically all but one game, which was against Tennessee, where he had 100 receiving yards. So consistently good all throughout the season. He didn't stack those yards in a couple of big chunk games. 3 figures every single game. So you have all that added attention from the defense because he was the main threat. They had a wide receiver too, and that was it. So he garnered, as a slot receiver, extra attention on the defense. They had an offensive scheme change during the season, and he had 2 quarterbacks throwing to him. And the main one ended up being the true freshman. I want to say Anthony Costanzo. It's not Costanzo, but oh God, I keep forgetting his name. Anywho, he had a true freshman basically as his quarterback for most of the season. That production then becomes insanely good. This is not just he was getting targeted because he was the only guy. He had a lot to overcome this season. And to put the season into perspective, he was second in the nation in receiving yards to Malik Neighbors, the superstar from LSU. He broke the ACC record for receptions in a season, and he's the fastest receiver in Virginia history to reach 1,000 yards. He had 711 yards of yak, so yards after the catch, which was 4th in the entire nation. So, like, as a slot guy, a smaller slot guy, most of his yards came after the catch, which just shows how physical and how dominant he is, even with his smaller frame. He's built like a running back, so he can take a lot of contact and carry on going. But it's watching his tape, it's where he creates separation. Like, this is a very high IQ guy. He sets defenders up, leaves them on an island with his movement. He'll set them up with a fake move. He will cut inside. He'll be gone. It's why he gets so much yards after the catch, because of the separation he creates and how good he is at setting the defenders up. His hands are top tier. So he had 3 drops this season to 111 receptions, just 3 drops. He's as tough as they come, as I said, again with the size. The main knock on him, it's literally his build at the next level. He can only really be a slot, but I mean, if I could have a potentially really great slot receiver, I don't really care. It's just as valuable as having an outside receiver, especially in this day and age of the NFL with all the hybrid defenders and that coming in. You've got to be able to expose the middle of the field. He's been one of that this year, and I think he's going to do really well. The only other knot would be he's got 1 year of production, like 4 nondescript years at Northwestern. He did 1 big year this year. Can he make it consistent? But I love him. I think he's a really great player. And, you know, if we didn't already have a plethora already, I wouldn't mind him coming to the Lions. But he's certainly a name to watch out for, is Malik Washington. And the other guy I picked up was the FCS guy, Ryan Flournoy. He's from Southeast Missouri State, been there 2 years. He's 121 of 207 on targets. He's got 1,841 receiving yards, 15 yards per reception, so a bit more of a deeper threat, 14 touchdowns. Did a little bit of returning. He's got 116 kickoff return yards on 4 attempts, so goes at 25 a clip when he gets it, and he's got a return touchdown. He's also got 2 rushing touchdowns as well. So he has receiving, returning, and rushing touchdowns. So instantly, versatility screams out at you. He's 6'2", 205 pounds. He's their outside receiver. He started in JUCO before making his move up to Missouri in the FCS. His testing numbers, he's one of Feldman's freaks. I think he was 46. So for those who don't know, these are the insanely athletic guys. His testing numbers would have put him second at last year's combine amongst all wide receivers except Jackson Smith and Jigba. And we all know how insanely athletic that guy is. So you've got the athletic ability right out the way. He's a team captain, standout leadership skills, which again, big need for teams in the NFL now. A lot look for this. He plays 80% on the outside. He's got the frame. He's got the hands. He's just got one drop this year, and he's taken a full load on the outside. So another whose hands are really good. He's a 3-level receiver. His numbers do not drop off behind the line of scrimmage, short, intermediate, deep. He grades well on everyone. The only problem he's had is that his quarterback at Southeast Missouri can't throw the deep ball very well. They're like 5 of 26 on deep balls, but that's not on the receiver, it's on the quarterback. I've seen some of the throws. They are awful, but he's good at all 3 levels himself. Competition levels will be a concern. He's an FCS guy, but he gets the opportunity this week against a very good group of DBs to show that he's capable of doing it at the next level there. But he does have a small sample size against really good teams. So they played on the road against Kansas State this year. Kansas State were the reigning Big 12 champions. It's the first game of the season. He had 10 catches for 96 yards, and he posted his second best run blocking grade of the season as well, putting some really good blocks on that game. Now, it's a small sample, but it's a start. He has shown that even on a small FCS side, he can do his 100 yards against that Kansas State defense is no mean feat. He wasn't even given a star rating out of high school, so he's one of these, he's got a big chip on his shoulder with a point to prove, and I love that about him. So there's some really great receivers. You know, like Ryan's mentioned, I've mentioned at both FBS and FCS level, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this bunch. Right, let's move it to the tight ends. So, tight ends, we've got Pip Ryman from Illinois, Dallin Hoker from Colorado State, McCallan Castles from Tennessee, Zach Hines from South Dakota State, who have 5 offensive players at this. So, big up the Jackrabbits. Jatavian Sanders from Texas, Isaac Rex from BYU, and Mason Pline from Furman. The last 2 were at the Hula Bowl and got invites on the back of this. Who are you looking at tight end, Ryan?
For me, the first place I go to is Mr. Dallin Hoker. Like, the fact is that he this year was a star. So he spent a couple of years at BYU where he had a couple of 100 yards, but he did also spend time, like I say, with football. I think he was in Chile on his missionary. And then, like I said, last year, transferred to the Colorado State Rams. And this year, it all just clicked for him in this offense. 64 catches for 767 yards and 6 touchdowns. A small average of 12 yards a catch. Team captain, a finalist for the Mackey Award, so the best tight end in the nation, and part of the first team Mountain West team. And he is the number 5 tight end on Mel Kiper's big board. He's way too the big board, so he's got some national recognition already. So he actually set the single season record for tight ends touchdowns with 6. He's super clutch. So 4 of the 6 touchdowns came in the fourth quarter, including a Hail Mary touchdown, which helped the go drive right at the death against the Boise State Broncos. And I believe that was the first ever win against Boise State. And he helped set it up with a long touchdown right at the death. He does also play fullback. He can block when needs to be. He's a good handy size at 6'4" and 235 pounds. The issue is he's pretty slow off line of scrimmage. He's a big boy, to be fair. He does take a while to get going, but once he does get going, especially in traffic, he's very dangerous. He's very hard to bring down. His number 1 trait I've read by Sports Illustrated is soft hands. He doesn't use his chest to catch. He doesn't hit the numbers. He uses the diamond. He brings it in and he corrals everything that comes in. And he's been super dangerous in and around the red zone this year. And he is really one of those sleepers. They expect him to go no later than the 3rd round. Don't expect him to drop to undrafted. And it's quite a difficult tight end gauged class this year. They think he is one of the potential gems that will be as a H-back blocker, like I say, but will also go out at tight end and could be real good in the red zone. because of his, like I say, his good catching and his contested ball rate and working in traffic against, like I say, linebackers, passing through the zones between them and the safeties. So yeah, he looks every bit of the part. Like I say, if anyone wants to go watch his YouTube highlights, go check out Zach Lanningham, who won in. He's put together a compilation, and he's a fun kid to watch. And the onus right now in the NFL on tight ends is so high, it's becoming a premier position that will probably elevate his draft stock for anyone that wants a long-term project to stash away, because he's got the basics right already. And receiving, he's already could be an instant threat. Blocking and everything else, probably work on that. Let's say if he needs to be, but yeah, he's got the fundamentals to be a quite a potential dangerous red zone threat.
And if I remember rightly, he was the guy who skinned Colorado alive during the rivalry game. I think he had a big game in that one. And I mean, in fairness, skinning that Colorado defense is not hard, but he looked so impressive. That is Group of Five versus Power Five. So yeah, Dallin Holker's a great prospect there. And I've got McAllen Castles. I love the name. He's named after a whiskey. 6-year guy, 2 years at Cal. 3 years at UC Davis, 1 year at Tennessee. He's 92 of 150 on receptions, 1,221 receiving yards, 13.3 yards per reception, and he's got 14 touchdowns as well. So big guy, 6'5", 252 pounds. He did it the hard way. So he spent 2 years at Cal, didn't really see any action there whatsoever. So he dropped all the way down to the FCS with UC Davis, and he turned himself into a high-level blocker there, especially when it came to the run game. And he's a reliable receiver, only gets about 200-300 yards a year, but he's clutch for when you need him. And, you know, just a little bit that you need out of him there. He took a big risk, though. So in his last year, he jumped all the way from UC Davis up to Tennessee. Wasn't even sure he was going to see any game time there, but it paid off. So he only had 242 receiving yards for the Vols, but he was second in receiving touchdowns with 5. He carved out a niche as like a go-to red zone guy. Like they always thought he was going to block and then he'd peel out the back. He's really, really good at that. So you've kind of got some sneaky ability with him there. The blocking grades dropped off for him a little bit, but that Tennessee spread offense, the tight ends, you've got to do a lot of perimeter blocking. They throw a ton of screens, a ton of perimeter passes where you've got to, it's completely different to conventional blocking. So his grades were still high. They were mid-60s, but they were like 80 at UC Davis. But the skill set he's going to have got from working in the spread offense and a more traditional offense, his blocking range is vast. So at the next level, if you want a guy who's going to block first and has the ability to become a really good receiver and is a sneaky touchdown option, this is kind of the direction you're going for him. And as I say, there's just a lot to like about him. But that lack of production, as I say, 1,221 yards in 6 years, he'll just go well under the radar. But his path, the way he's taken, the way he got up to the SEC, took that chance, did really well for Tennessee. That should hold him in good stead as well. So I'm really interested. I think he's like a round 4 or 5 pick at the minute. But as we mentioned, there's a dearth of tight ends in the draft this year. So needs must might just push him up a little bit, especially guys like McAllen. So looking forward to seeing him at this Shrine Bowl. Certainly one of my favorites on there. Right. Let's move over to the offensive line. And we're going to do tackles first. So I've done one of each. I've got 5 guys in here. So the tackles, Nathan Thomas from Louisiana, Garrett Greenfield from South Dakota State, Walter Roos from Stanford, Julian Pearl from Illinois, Anim Dankwa from Howard, Hosea Ezerim from Eastern Kentucky, Tylen Grable from UCF, Gottlieb Ayedzi from Maryland, Andrew Coker from TCU, and Caden Wallace from Penn State. You got any tackles on your list there, Ryan?
I've got 2 guards.
Right, so
I'll
do my tackles first. So I said I try to do one of each. I just like doing that there. So the first guy I've got up is Tylen Grable. So again, offensive line tackle. He's spent 2 years at Jacksonville State, 2 years at UCF. So his deployment, 2,808 snaps at left tackle, 90 as inside tight end. So he's just been a left tackle his entire career. The stats, so in 1,421 pass blocking snaps, he's given up just 10 sacks, 7 quarterback hits, and 34 quarterback hurries, making for a total of 51 pressures. Go keep saying this about Lima, but he big. 6'7", 290 pounds. He's always been a high-level pass blocker, and he's coming off his best year with UCF. He didn't give up a single sack and just 1 quarterback hit manning the blind side for Plumlee. And that's really good because a lot of the taller guys, they struggle with guys getting under them, leverage, getting pushed back into the backfield. He doesn't. His technique's amazing in pass blocking. He knows exactly where to put his hands. He gets low. He's got great lower body strength to be able to push those guys out and keep them away. So I really love the technique and leverage skills there. He's one of the more athletic tackles in this group. So he's a really good second level blocker again with all the RPO stuff they do at UCF. He has to do a lot of pulling, a lot of second level blocking. He's very athletic and he's really good at it. So I love the stuff he does in pass pro. The issue he does have is moving guys around in the run game. When at the line of scrimmage, when you do a more traditional run game, it needs to be addressed. But overall, there's a lot to like, a lot to work with. He is just purely a left tackle, and you would probably keep him there. Don't kick him inside. I hate it when teams do that. But he's played in 2 different offensive systems as well. Like I say, he's played in the RPO at UCF, and he's played in a more traditional system at Jacksonville State. Back when they were in the FCS, they were very run heavy. So very experienced dude, highly experienced, worked multiple systems. I really like him there, and his ability to adapt. So, like I said, he started his career in the FCS with Jacksonville State. He moved up to the Group of 5 initially with UCF because they were a Group of 5 team last year, and they gone to the Power 5 this year, and he's had his best year. So, for the last 3 years, his competition levels have gone up, and his performances have stayed consistently high, if not got better. So that's a really good sign of a lineman when he can keep jumping to the next level, keep performing well, especially at the most important position of them all, at the left tackle. He has not missed a beat. And then the other guy I've got is Jalen Sundell on the offensive line, another tackle, 5 years at North Dakota State. He's won a boatload of championships there, as Ryan will testify to. So his deployment, 967 snaps at left tackle, 1,362 at center. So the stats, 925 pass blocking snaps. He's given up just 19 pressures, 2 sacks, and 1 quarterback hit in 5 years. He's 6'5", 300 pounds. He started at left tackle in his freshman year. Then he moved to center for 3 years. And then this year he went back to left tackle due to injuries and there. So immediately, you've got versatility off the books. He's played on the interior. He's played at tackle. You can probably move him along the line as well. And he can snap the ball because he spent 3 years at center. So he's another who's highly athletic. He comes from a family of basketball players. So plays a lot of basketball. The guy can shift. And as Ryan will tell you, the Bison love to run the football. They love to play ground and pound. They love to physically dominate you. And that's exactly the type of mold that this guy is. And they say he lets nobody get to his quarterback wherever he plays. He's dominant on the line of scrimmage, as I've already said. This is a team that has had an offensive lineman drafted in the last 3 drafts. So you've had Dylan Raduns, Cordell Volson, Cody Mouch, who's played every game for the Buccaneers this season. It's a system with pedigree when it creates its offensive linemen, but he has been playing on a juggernaut amongst small fish. So this is going to be a big learning curve for him going to the Senior Bowl against some Power 5 guys, as opposed to just being on the best team in the FCS and absolutely dominating. But there's a lot to like about him in both facets of the game. So Tylan Grable and Jalen Sundell, the 2 guys to watch at tackle there. Now, I feel like we've not actually had the same players yet, right? I feel like at guard, we might get some crossover here, but I've been yammering about the tackles. Who have you got at guard?
So at guard, my first guy is, well, he's played a lot of tackle, but he projects as guard. That's why he's interior. So KT Leviston, guy from Kansas State, the Wildcats. So he has played 6 years. So he was an extra 5th year senior this year. 6'5", 330, projected to run a a 5'2", 40. So in freshman, like I say, he was 53 snaps, no hurries, no hits, no sacks. Sophomore, he would go 10 games, 340 snaps with 7 hits, 7 hurries, 3 hits, and a sack. As a junior, 9 games, only 79 snaps, so he did struggle that year. But he also had 0 hits, 0 hurries, and 0 sacks. As a senior, 13 games, 835 snaps, 18 hurries, 2 hits, and 5 sacks. And as a fifth-year senior, 12 games this year, 861 snaps. But he did surrender 11 hurries, 2 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. So the issue is he's very much a run blocker. Yeah, but apparently he is mean. His initial burst off the line is, I will initiate contact with the D-line before they get to me. Hands on, he's the burst, and he's able to move them. Like I say, he's able to have his will with them once he gets off the line. And he can get to the next level if he has to. He can pull. He will get to the linebackers, the safeties, if needs to be, if he's going to lead block. He understands the stunt, the split, the twist. So what he sees, he knows is not what he gets. The person in front of him may not be the person he has to block. And if they do stunt or they do twist and someone comes around and he has to adjust on the fly, he gets that good handwork and he's able to pick up the blitz and he's able to protect that. So he's able to adjust at the last second when he needs to. He can work on the fly, which is really good for someone that primarily will be a left guard, I imagine, next level. Pass pro is probably where he struggles, despite the good size and the weight. It's the fact that he can sometimes get caught where he thinks, like say, the quarterback's escaped or the pockets kind of go, and it kind of just lets the guy go, but then they'll show that relentless pursuit and they will get after it. So sometimes there are questions where he will let a man go before the play is well and truly over. So not necessarily effort, but sometimes concentration or their lack of it. Pass pro is probably where he does struggle against the faster guys, the guys more bend around the outside. He can't always shepherd them around the outside successfully. So he has given up quite a few sacks and a fair amount of hurries over the career. That's between left guard and left tackle. But for someone like say at the lines, like say someone a potential left guard that can be into a run player, and you can just kind of get behind him and say, I'll lead the way as the next level. That's what he offers, and that's what I like about him. I think he can work on the pass pro, but he's a strong run guard right now, and I expect him to probably be a pulling guard as well on the next level because he can work well in open space. But the other guy, struggle to find more about this person, but this other person is so Willis Patrick. So interesting story. He started at D2 D'Angelo State, and that was 3 years ago. He was their right guard there, played well, and he decided to get a big time pickup with one other than Deion Sanders. He was part of the 12-1 Jackson State Tigers team. And in an interview with Pro Draft Network, he was interviewed and he said, basically taught him everything he knows to be the person he is right now. I said, he is a run mauler. He is absolutely brutal. He is a nasty streak to him. I say he loves to just get like square up, pad on pad, and I will just drive you back and I will force holes at the next level. 6'4", 330, so he's definitely a guard. He doesn't have the tackle build, all those long arms. He's not got that rangy figure. But this year at TCU, he did start every game at right guard. So from his progression from Iowa State to Jackson State, it was a big time step year for the Horned Frogs. And he coaches, like I say, says Coach Sanders and what he did from Jackson State, prepared him for this. Like I say, came into the Big 12 and he anchored that right side of the line. Did struggle, but TCU is known for a run game that can be very productive, and he held his own on part of that line as a first-time transfer into a Power 5 school. So he did really well this year, and I do like him. Like I say, I think he's a likable kid. He's had an interesting path to get here. He's played at all levels. He basically said that he doesn't think anything's really different in run game. Like I say, the objective is the objective where you play D1 or Power 5. You know what it is. There'll be more athletic defenders. Like I say, they'll try more fancy stuff. But ultimately, he said, you won't fool me. Like I say, I've seen it all. I've been there, and I'm able to plug and play in a run-heavy offense, and I'm able to win at line of scrimmage and get to the next level. Pass pro, another one where He will struggle. He's not the biggest, not the heaviest, but he will give his effort and he will give 100%. And he's a really likable kid. So he's someone that I think is probably that project that you stash away. But yeah, for someone that's looking to train or like work on like a project for a long-term right guard, like I said, we could be. I think it's someone like I said that's been in different environments. He's worked with some really good coaches as well that really do talk highly of him. So he seems like a good kid to mentor.
Yeah, I love the guys who come out of D2 and stuff like that, work their way up. They've got a chip on their shoulder. There's something that gives them a little edge. So that's great. And amazingly, we've still not had the same guys on here. So I'll move into my guards now. So the first one I did mention because he was at the Hula Bowl and I absolutely love him. So Zovea Gadlin. So he is the Liberty offensive lineman, 5-year guy, 3 years at Tulsa, 2 years at Liberty. His deployment been all over. 1,010 snaps at left guard, 1,018 snaps at right guard, 1,493 snaps at right tackle, 109 at center, and just to round it off, 53 at left tackle. So he's literally played everywhere. His stats in 1,859 pass block reps, he's given up 14 sacks, 11 quarterback hits, and 51 QB hurries. He's 6'4", 322 pounds. I love his frame and his size. It's perfect. Again, extremely versatile. And this was a kid, he got broken in very harshly. So year 1 at Tulsa, he didn't really play. Year 2, he was their starting right tackle. He gave up 9 sacks and 10 quarterback hits in the season. It was trial by fire. Bearing in mind, he's only given up 14 sacks and 11 quarterback hits in his career. 9 and 10 of them came in his first year, but he's bounced back superbly. So in the last 3 seasons, he's given up just 5 sacks and 1 quarterback hit, and he didn't give up either this year at all as Liberty romped to the CUSA title. He hadn't even heard of Liberty when he went into the portal from Tulsa looking for another opportunity, because as I say, he had a bit of a rough time there. He wanted a fresh start. But just after a year after they recruited him, he was their top graded offensive lineman and he was a team captain. That's kind of the drive and determination he has, even going into new surroundings. His run blocking has shot up while he's been at Liberty. He is night and day a better run blocker between the two systems. He's helped lead the best rushing attack in the nation. Liberty were rushing for about 303 yards per game, which was 40 more than Air Force, who are the best running team in the nation per game. So he's a modicum of health. Like I say, you've got well over 3,000 snaps there at 5 different positions, very rarely injured, yet he's very physical, very aggressive, and he's extremely likable off the field, because I did a little bit on him. I found this story. So he's a singer away from the field. He does all his football stuff. He's a singer. He performs on the stage, notably Shakespeare plays. I saw a clip of him doing Romeo and Juliet, which was just something to behold. And he's very big towards his charity stuff. He's just such an easy guy to like. And he's dominant. I love everything about him. Now, the issues come, like, he had his rough start and he overcame them. But Liberty, let's face it, they were the CUSA this year. They just ran over everybody. So how's he going to operate when he comes up against teams who are going to fight back, like who are higher level opposition? Because it's the CUSA, it is what it is, unfortunately, for them. But he's performed well in games against bigger teams for Liberty as well. So we will see. And he really needs to pick a position on the line. They figure he's going to be a guard, probably will go to right, but he can do both. So the versatility is a thing, but you need to pick a home. But Zovea Gadlin, I absolutely love the guy. If Christian Haynes didn't exist in this draft, then he'd be the guard I'd be after. And then the second one, who I also really like, Christian Mahogany. So he is the guy from Boston College. 4 years. He's been there, stayed loyal to the program, start to finish. He's played 785 snaps at left guard and 1,532 at right guard. So you can play him either side. Doesn't really matter. In 1,225 pass block snaps, he's given up 4 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, and 20 hurries. It's nothing in the grand scheme of things. He's 6'3", 322 pounds, so another really good frame for a guard. And He's hard not to like. He's like Gadlin. He's just such an easy guy to like here. He comes from a system that obviously Boston College, they sent Chris Lindstrom to the NFL. He just earned $100 million. They sent Zion Johnson last year, who was a first round pick. He's going to be the next guy in the pipeline. This is a program known for creating top tier offensive linemen, especially at the guard position. They're known specifically for their IQ. He's no different. So, as Ryan said with some of his guys, he can sniff out delayed blitzers, late blitzers, stunts. I've seen him there, and you can just see the eyes are moving everywhere, and he can see all, he knows all, he picks it up quick. That's why he's given up so few pressures during his career. He's able to counter the bull rush really well. He's got great lower body strength to anchor in against those big, beefy nose tackles who just love to try and run over you. And for 322 pounds, he's nimble. He works pulls, he works traps, he does all the motion stuff as well as just the old-fashioned ground and pound. And he keeps getting better. So he lost all of his 2022 to an ACL injury. I think he got injured in the first game, didn't play after that. He came back this year. He didn't give up a single pressure. His first game back in the ACC was against Florida State, who absolutely steamrolled that division. Their defensive line is one of the best, probably the best in the ACC. He didn't give up a single pressure on the day, and that was his first game back from an ACL injury. And it just went through the year. He didn't give up a sack or a quarterback hit all year. He played almost every snap, so the injury worries right behind him. And Boston College, if you listen to this pod often enough, they were red hot with Thomas Castellanos and that line in front of him. They were red hot in the second half of the season, and he was a big part of that. He's a team captain there. He gave up many big NIL offers. They said he got offered millions in NIL deals to leave Boston College this year to go and play. He stayed loyal to his team. I just like players who are loyal to their program. I just think it says something about them. So again, really likable. There are some issues when it comes to his leverage techniques, when it comes to the run game, just got a little few technical issues to sort out there. And the long-term health, even after his ACL injury, people might be like, is it still there? He's had a full season, but is it going to be a long-term problem? But he's NFL caliber, no doubt. Like I say, coming from a system that just produces great talent on the line. Love me a Boston College guard. So those are my two guys there. I'm guessing you haven't picked a center out of these.
I've not, no.
Right. I'll quickly go through my center, then we'll go on to the D line. So the center I've got, because I did five, Nick Samak, weirdly enough, the Michigan State 5-year center there. He's played 2,500 snaps at center. That's it. He's a true center. Given up 6 sacks, 9 quarterback hits, 30 hurries in 1,368 pass blocking snaps. 6'4", 300 pounds. Again, really good size. He's taken a lot of bumps at Michigan State. Like, that team has been bad. He's had niggling injuries. He had to fight to get in the team to start with. The injuries sort of held him back. He kept having to fight his way back into that team. He's had to work with a lot of questionable talent around him. And then this year they've had to deal with the Mel Tucker scandal. And he was highlighted as one of the players who sort of took ownership of the team during that period and led them on forward. So literally leading that offensive line by himself. And yet, despite that, he's had a very respectable career. You know, those numbers are not much. He's not given up much in pass protection. He's been decent in the run game. The big year with Kenneth Walker, he was part of that. Struggled recently because the running backs haven't been very good. He's tough. He's got the right frame for the NFL. He's shown the tools in both run and pass to succeed as long as he comes in the right system that develops him right. And again, he's a really good second-level defender as well, a second-level blocker. So you can move him into space, get him in there. You can help crack off some big runs with him. I really like him. There's a lot of all-around development needed for him. He could be a day 3 pick at best, but there's a Sunday player in there somewhere. Those Spartans are built tough. So Samak is one to watch out for. So that was everything on the offense. I realized I just forgot to list all those guys out. So overall at this, so you got KT Leviston from Kansas State who's a guard, Mahogany, Boston College as a guard, Patrick, TCU as a guard. You got Dylan McMahon from NC State who's a guard, Mason McCormick from South Dakota State who was a guard, CJ Hansen, the guard from Holy Cross, Donovan Jennings, the guard from USF, Matt Lee, the center from Miami. Hunter Nurzad, the center from Penn State. Gadlin, the guard from Liberty. Sundell, the guard from North Dakota State, but he is a tackle. Matt Goncalves, who's the guard from Pittsburgh. Trente Jones, who is the guard from Michigan. And Carson Barnhart, who is from Michigan. He's played everywhere but in the center. Right, let's move on to the defensive line. I don't know whether you've gone edge or interior. Have you done either, or is it just sort of D-line guys?
I've got one, so I've got a D line like a stand-up guy, so I've got one of each.
All right, so we'll do the interior defensive line first. So the guys we've got here are Evan Anderson from Florida Atlantic, Jordan Miller from SMU, Zion Logue from Georgia, Logan Lee from Iowa, Fabian Lovett Sr. from Florida State, Justin Rogers, no, not him, of Detroit fame, from Auburn, Leonard Taylor III from the Miami Hurricanes, Jamri Cromar from James Madison, Christian Boyd from Northern Iowa, Juwan Briggs from Cincinnati, Miles Murphy from UNC, and Nathan Pickering from Miss State. So who's your interior guy, Ryan?
So I've gone with Jamri Cromar. So this guy is a 5-year guy. Spent his first 3 years with Rutgers, the Scarlet Knights in the Big Ten, but then decided to transfer over to James Madison. I believe when they came up to the FBS, he's been there 2 years, so he's been part of their FBS crusade. Listed at about 6'3", 125 pounds. As a Duke, he's got 75 tackles and 13.5 sacks the last 2 years, but 10 of those sacks came this year. This year was the year he broke out. Now, he is regarded as a 3-tech run stuffer. The hand is in the dirt on the edge, but his primary focus is to beat double teams, to force guys inside or bounce them out and try to get around the edge. Like I said, primary is he wants to stop the run. He is great in the run. He has got a very physical frame. He's got broad shoulders. He's got good hands, good arms. He is able to swallow up the middle when needs be. This year, though, he's shown that he is able to overwhelm guys on the outside. He can show flashes of speed. He can drop the shoulder. He can use like his hands now. He's developed a bit more of a pass rush arsenal. And when he does use that speed and get into the backfield, he's now developed a bit of a knack for finishing this year. Like I said, double-digit sacks on another great Duke's defense, very important to them. And he's kind of developed his game now from years where it'd be they're gonna run the ball, like take him off. Oh, we need to rush the passer, like yank him out. Leave him out there now. Like I say, give him the chance to work the outside, try beat a guy around side. Do you want to stunt him? Do you want him to put the hand in the dirt and think he's going to stop the run and then bring him underneath the nose tackle? You can do it if you want to try. He's developed athletically. He's got the mental side of the game down now, where he's understanding that what it takes to be a pass rusher. You can't just win with size or speed or anything like that. It's kind of a combination of things. And then things he's still got to work on next level if he doesn't want to be just a run stuffer. Where if he just wants to be a trench man, it's fine. He's got that. I say he can take up space. He can swallow up holes. He can just kind of stop plays there and then. But if he wants to be more than that, he can put more weight on the frame. So he can hold his own on the outside and he can work on that. Maybe develop a spin move because he's not that tall. People won't get under the pads. He's a good size. We've still got fairly good centre of gravity because he's not lanky. But yeah, he's someone that I think has got the fundamentals down. He's got the basics right. The flashy stuff and that. You can teach him that. Like I said, you can't teach him to defend the run. They're in his instincts, they're his nature. But this year, like as they were coaching him, they gave him a bit more of a free rein to say, do you get the chance to get after the quarterback? Or if you want to go like pursue him and force him out of bounds or reduce the play, like you've got free rein to go do it. And it really paid off for him this year in a big way. So yeah, he's someone that's definitely be interesting as a bit of a tweener that can like wants to do more of the other now. So he can do the dirty work, and that's primarily why you would pick him up.
And a proven winner, like the notable win on that James Madison team. They've been
played the Big Ten, and now he's a winner in the last 2 years. He's won like 90% of his games he's played in.
Yeah. And that winning mentality goes a long way. Right, I've got a couple of DTs here. So my first guy, Evan Anderson, he is the defensive tackle from Florida Atlantic. He's been there for years. So he's got 788 snaps as a full god nose tackle. Then he's got 700 at defensive tackle, but that's 3 tech and inside. His stats, 42 quarterback pressures, 10 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, 27 hurries, 124 tackles, just an 8.8% missed tackle rate, and his run defense is elite, maybe the best of everybody in this. So he's 6'3" and 356 pounds. He is a big, beefy nose tackle. And for anyone who knows my draft loves, it goes safety, big, beefy nose tackles, outside blocking perimeter receivers. Those are my 3 loves. The nose tackles are right up there, but he is deceptively good for such a big guy at rushing the passer. But it is the run defense where he's always shined from day one with the Owls. One-on-one, a lot of guys on the O-line just cannot handle his speed and his bull rush. Like, he's 360 pounds of mass. No one will be able to deal with that. However, he'll use that to get into the backfield and make plays. He's got a good number of tackles for loss against the run on his resume. He just causes a lot of problems there. And when he gets double teamed, he simply can't be moved. Like, his lower body strength and his grappling technique, his understanding of leverage, even when he's double teamed, they can't shift him. So plugging up that hole in the middle, stopping teams running between the tackles, it's so impressive with him. And he can carry a big workload for such a big fella. He had over 500 snaps this year, which for like the really big nose tackles, that's a lot, because these guys have to put themselves through a lot, and they're just basically in a wrestling match every snap. And to get that many snaps shows that he is actually deceptively athletic, because a lot of the heavier nose tackles can't handle that load. He's got 2 seasons where he's got 500 snaps plus. He's very experienced. Like I say, 1,500 overall. That's a good career for him. So it's a testament to his fitness and endurance, just how good he is there. And he showed his pass rush upside this year. He had 5 sacks this year, which doubled his career total. Now, granted, the pass rush arsenal is not great. His move is the bull rush. Like, he is a 360-pound man who is bigger and stronger than you, and he will push you all the way back into the quarterback and get his sacks that way. However, a lot of guys still can't do that in that department. So the fact that he can shows you that he's got some pass rush ability to work with. It gives him 3-down potential in the NFL. Now, right now, he's a 2-down guy at nose tackle who you use against the run. But if you can get that 3-down out of him, then his value goes through the roof. Probably shed a little bit of weight as he goes up as well. Maybe get down to 330, something like that. Add a few extra steps to it. I think there's a lot you can do with him. Now, he's been at the group of 5 level, so can he do it against better linemen? There's some really good linemen here at the Shrine Bowl, so I'll be watching intently to see what he can do there. And then the other guy, mentioned him at the Hula Bowl, Christian Boyd. So he's the defensive tackle from Northern Iowa. He's the FCS guy. 5 years there. He's got 550 snaps at nose, 1,272 at the 3 tech, 103 at the 5 tech, and 148 as a wide edge. So predominantly an inside defensive tackle, but you can move him across the line depending. He's got 80 quarterback pressures, 79, sorry, 14 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, 55 hurries, 136 tackles, 12.3% on the missed tackle rate, 4 batted passes, 1 forced fumble. He's 6'4" and 317 pounds, so a bit skinnier, but he's a tall dude. So he's got a problem that many defensive tackles have at college, and this was the point I made when I did a Leams tape years ago. He doesn't have the fancy stats that a lot of the edge guys have, and so people don't look twice at that. But what he is, this hides the story of a good player with huge upside. The run defense is his staple. He's got a really quick first step, which he uses to either get in the backfield or to get himself anchored against double teams so that he can't be shoved, because he is a little lighter. But the first step is so quick, he puts himself in the position to succeed either way. He's very aggressive against double teams as well. He doesn't just sort of try and anchor himself in and stay there. He'll actively fight against double teams and try shake them off and go and make plays, which is something you don't see from a lot of these guys. I love his aggressive nature. I love an aggressive lineman there. He creates rushing lanes for his teammates. He does a lot of the grunt work to give others opportunities. He's got a high motor. He'll be the guy who pursues every play. If guys break contain, he will chase to the perimeter. He will fight to the end of every play. Again, I love the guys who do that. And the pass rush has improved with him. He's registered 51 pressures in the last 2 seasons. Bear in mind, he's only got 79 in college. That like production has just shot up as he's been more of the guy there. He's only got 4 sacks, and that's the problem here. He's a little slow getting to the quarterback. So he needs to get a second step. He needs to try and find some more pass rush moves, which get him to wing quick, because he's another who bull rushes a lot. And unfortunately, going through a guy takes longer than getting round a guy. So he gets the pressure, but he just needs to turn it into genuine production. But the tools are there. You can see it on tape. Just takes some refinement from a good D-line coach. Let's say if he expands his arsenal of moves, he's got major potential. Like he played well this year. He recorded good performances against Iowa State, South Dakota State, and North Dakota State, the 2 powerhouses of the FCS and a Power 5 team. He didn't look out of place at all, played really well. So 2 underrated defensive tackles I'll be looking heavily at there. Right, let's move on to the edge room. So we've got Khalid Duke from Kansas State. I'm sorry for butchering this name. David Woegbu from Houston. Trajan Jeffcoat from Arkansas. Xavier Thomas from Clemson. Iabi Okianoma from Charlotte. Mohamed Kamara from Colorado State. Sundiata Anderson from Grambling State. Solomon Byrd from USC. Javon Jean-Baptiste from Notre Dame, and Zion Tupuola-Fetui from Washington. Who you got in the edge room, Ryan?
So, well, edge, but this guy's more of a linebacker, so put him in the linebacker group. So, Xavier Thomas, so the 6-year Clemson player. At 24, he's one of the oldest players on the roster. And when you look at him, he's like 6'1", 110. You see why he's not a true edge rusher. Now, he's weird because, 6 years, his sack totals are 3.5, 2, 3.5, 3.5, 2, and 3. But he's only got 1 year where he had more than 30 tackles. That was a freshman, is 33. So throughout his whole career, his tackle to sack ratio is at its highest 11-1, and at its lowest is at 3. Every 3 tackles was a sack. This guy is ridiculous. He's like James Houston. He rarely plays. The snap count is not high. He only comes in on like 2nd and 3rd downs, or it's blatant pass rush downs. But when you look at that, you couldn't find a much better finisher in the country. He comes on, and despite the lack of size and weight, he finds ways to get to the quarterback consistently. Compared to lack of tackles, how many his actual tackles finish as sacks is quite remarkable for someone that is purely an impact substitute. And he is, even at next level, he will never play that many snaps. He might not play 50, he might not play 40, he could play 10, 20, 30 snaps a game. But you bring him on, and I reckon he will get a pressure instantly. If he can't, he'll get a sack. If not, like I say, he'll get a hurry. In small sample sizes, like I say, older guy, Dabo Swinney trusts him very much. He's been there for a whole 6 years now, and he understands that what he brings to this defense is someone that you keep him on in fresh, small sample size, you throw him in, and the numbers speak themselves. Incredibly productive about sacking people and finishing and getting to the quarterback. And he's someone that he doesn't need that many snaps to get the job done. So he's quite an interesting prospect that someone will look at him and think, I would love him in my scheme for 2nd and 3rd down. You just throw him out there when it's obvious they're going to pass the ball, or like 3rd and long, and the quarterback is going to have to drop back and sit into the pocket. I say he's small, he's shifty, he's fast, he's got good hands. He's made a career out of being basically a sack artist as date right now, because he's not had much else to do. If he works on those skills at next level, he will be someone that will have like in NASCAR packages, having like when they deal the house or they send the blitz or whatever you want to call it. He will be that guy that you call out there, call his name a couple of times a game, might get a sack every other game, and he will find his ways to make very useful. And on special teams, I'd like to think he's a very handy tackler and will be great on a kick coverage or a punt coverage unit. So yeah, this guy will never be the flashiest. He probably won't even get drafted. Like I say, he's old, he's been in college a long time, but he may find his way onto a roster just because of what he can do when he gets in the backfield.
Yeah, and he's coming from one of the best system creations of defenders, really, isn't he? Like, they just churn out talent on their D-line, which is NFL ready, even if they're only role players. So a lot to like there. The guy I've got on edge for me is Mohamed Kamara. I think I've done stuff on him before. I
Yeah,
feel like he's been in a mock at some point, maybe last year, but I love this guy. I think it was last year, but the defensive end from Colorado State, 5 years he has been there. His deployment, 1,600 plus snaps at edge. He's done 195 in the box and 74 in the slot. So occasionally they'll get creative with him, but predominantly he's an edge rusher and he's a pass rushing edge rusher at that. He's 6'2", 245 pounds. He's one of the most productive pass rushers in college football the last 2 years. He has 117 pressures in just the last 2 years. That's 20 sacks, 24 quarterback hits, 33 tackles for loss, and 4 forced fumbles. He might be the best draft prospect from the Mountain West this year. He's certainly up there in the conversation with it. As a pass rusher, he sets up his moves really well, and then he uses his quick first step off the snap, and he's got this vicious rip move that he uses just to get on top of guys right away. He's very physical and aggressive with it. He uses the rip move off his first step, and he's gone, and he's at the quarterback because he wins so quickly, which is why he gets so much production in the backfield. He plays hot, like he is relentless all game. He gets a lot of coverage sacks as well. So even if first time, like the first pass rush move doesn't work, he keeps going because he knows that his secondary is going to create opportunities for him to get coverage sacks, and you see plenty of them in the film. So I love it. Aggressive, hot motor, everything you want really from a great edge rusher. And we know the Mountain West produces some really tough, gritty edge rushers. The frame and length are issues. They do get exposed in the run game, which is going to be his biggest problem and his biggest point to prove. So when he wins, his ankles and his leverage are actually really good when it comes against blocks. But when he loses, it's because he's getting stuck on guys. The smaller frame, the bigger offensive lineman can get hands on him, and then they'll move him at will. They will lever him out the way, be it inside, outside, whatever they need to do to create the lanes to run past him. So that's an issue that requires a lot of work. He needs to get a little bit more upper body strength, needs to get a bit more nous with that run defense. But as a pass rusher, you ain't going to find a better one. Certainly, he'll be a situational pass rusher in the NFL to start with, but he's got big upside if you can bring him in on running downs. He's a very tantalizing prospect for me. As I say, the production speaks for itself. And also, as a bonus to start with, he has a lot of special teams experience. He works the punt return and field goal block teams. He's got a lot of reps with both. So he'll give you third down availability. He'll give you special teams availability. And over time, you can turn him into a 3-down guy. So I think Mohamed Kamara is going to make someone very happy indeed. And then my second edge, because I've gone 4-2-5 here, Javonte Jean-Baptiste. So he's a 5-year DN, 4 years at Ohio State, 1 year at Notre Dame. He is exclusively played at edge, 1,368 snaps on the edge. He's got 46 at 5 tech. He sometimes comes inside a little bit, but he doesn't really do a lot of work in there. So the stats, he's got 87 quarterback pressures, 15 sacks, 21 quarterback hits, 51 hurries, 84 tackles with a 12.5% missed tackle rate, so a little high, 3 battered passes, and 2 forced fumbles. So he's 6'4", 260 pounds, perfect frame for a great edge rusher, but he spent 4 years just as like a rotational special teams guy at OSU. He did a lot of special teams. He did a little bit of rotation on the edge there. He decided he'd had enough. So he was going to go to Notre Dame, which, as we know, that's been known in recent years for its ability to create great edge rushing players. He took a chance and it's paid off for him. He's had a superb year. 6 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, 22 hurries, 2 battered passes, a forced fumble. That missed tackle rate I told you about came down to 6.8%. Like it was earlier in his career, he was bad. The last 2 years, his missed tackle rate's only 6%. It's something he's really worked hard on. He had 41 tackles this year. Just 3 of them were missed, and he posted the best run defense grade of his career. It was 86. He had nothing anywhere near it beforehand. So it's just 1 year of productivity after 4 years of kind of been a guy who just did a little bit of stuff at Ohio State. But he's gone to a school which is well known for creating its edge players, and he's had a monster year there. And that Notre Dame defense, for as bad as their team has been really good this year. Absolutely great defense. He works the field goal block units. He works the punt return units on special teams as well. So he's got an in there, but I don't know. I just have a thing for these guys from Notre Dame on the edge. He's got the frame. He's got everything he needs to succeed, and he's got his way in through special teams first. So absolutely love that. Right, let's move on to the linebacker. You did your edge player, didn't you? We're on linebackers now.
I've got inside linebacker.
Yeah, I don't think it does inside or out here. I don't know how So the linebackers, we've got Aaron Casey from Indiana, Steel Chambers from Ohio State, Curtis Jacobs from Penn State, Edgarin Cooper from Texas A&M, Darius Muasau from UCLA, Lavelle Bailey from Fresno State, Maema Njongmeta from Wisconsin, Jackson Mitchell from UConn, Kalen DeLoach from Florida State, and Dallas Gant from Toledo. Muasau, Bailey, Njongmeta, and Mitchell were all at the Hula Bowl, so a lot of the linebackers have come here, but that was a very experienced class. But who have you picked for linebacker?
So I've gone with someone that's primarily an inside linebacker. And I've gone with Steel Chambers. I mean, with a name like that, how could you not? But let's be honest. But I say 6'1", 230 pounds, 4 years at Ohio State, and he's played with some great guys. He's found it hard to struggle out. So over 200 tackles, 5 passes defended, 3 sacks, 4 interceptions. And when you look at him, you instantly think tweener. He's between a strong safety and inside linebacker. He plays everything in the box. I'd say he's a violent guy across 5 to 10 yards. He comes down hard and he makes people pay for it. Whether that's a tight end catching a ball or someone like on a drag route, the ball may be caught, but he will lay you out for the cost of it. He is really dangerous in coverage, in zone. If you want to pass through the middle or come in that gap between like the linebackers and safeties when he's dropping on the back pedal, or if he's showing blitz and then drops back, he has got the ability and the finishing speed to close on the ball on a shallow crossing route. If you can't get the ball, he will bring the man down. He's able to, like say, come down to next level. If a running back's able to squeeze through the hole in the middle, he will lay the wood and he will put you out. He struggles with everything like on the outside. Like you say, he can get like say a shifty or block like a guard that comes to the next level. He can get past them, but he does sometimes struggle, like say, with technique of tackling the open field, things like that. Anything over or behind him, that's not where he wants to be. He is a zone coverage linebacker, but he's very scheme specific. But for like what a lot of teams play, they probably will like him. He's got experience. He's a good, strong, solid tackler, and he does have some decent ball to hand eye awareness in zone. He is able to make his impact felt across the middle in round crossing zones. So he's very serviceable. And special teams, I expect him to be, frankly, a menace. If he's not the first guy to like be in the face of a punt returner or a kick returner, I'd be very frustrated because he feels like someone that wants to go out there and he wants to hurt people. He plays with that kind of like he has got a chip on his shoulder, and I do like that about him. He will make his presence felt, and yeah, he's a true like inside linebacker. But he could drop back into strong safety if someone wants to play like a 3 safety package. You could leave him on the field, drop him back. The closing speed from like say 5 to 7 yards line of scrimmage, he can bring that downhill pretty quickly, and he can meet a running back in the hole if you ask him to, not going through traffic. So fundamentally, he's sound. I say he's been around guys like Eichenberg and like flashier linebackers that get all the praise, but he's got a good, solid, strong body of work around him.
Yeah, that's an insanely talented room at linebacker at Ohio State, which is kind of a segue into the guy I'm going to talk about. Well, I've got two, but the first one I really want to mention is Dallas Gant. So he is the linebacker from the Toledo Rockets. But I mentioned this, he spent 4 years at Ohio State, didn't really get any time there. So he transferred out back to his hometown in Toledo. 2 years there, has won himself a MAC championship, become a captain on the team. It's been really good for him. So his deployment, 1,859 snaps in the box, 151 at slot, 63 at edge, 19 at corner. So predominantly inside linebacker there, but can play in the slot a little as well. So his stats, 24 quarterback pressures, 3 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, 17 hurries, 271 tackles, just a 9% missed tackle rate inside linebacker. That's pretty good when it's in single digits. 4 forced fumbles, an interception, 3 pass breakups. In coverage, he's 59 of 77 on receptions, so it's about 70%, but the yards per reception is only 6. So he gives up a lot of catches, but he doesn't give up a lot of yards with them. So he's actually pretty good in coverage, despite what the numbers may say. He's 6'3" and 230 pounds. He is built perfect to play at linebacker. He plays both strong side and inside. Like I say, he spent 4 years primarily as a special teamer at Ohio State before transferring to find starter reps. He is vastly experienced on special teams. This is where he gets into the NFL. 800 reps on special teams. He's at 3 figures in every unit on special teams, apart from the field goal kick team. He's played over 100 on every other. Like, he's one of the most experienced special teamers going. He oozes leadership. He quickly became a captain for Toledo despite coming from outside from another team. He's really good against the run. Now, he's a read and react guy. He'll sniff plays out before they happen. He's got the speed to get to where he knows the play's coming and make the play when it happens. Makes him really good against the run. The tackling is really good. The technique is great. As soon as he gets the runner, it's over. And as I already mentioned, he doesn't miss many tackles. So once he gets hands on you, you're done. He's tough and durable. He's played 1,800 snaps in his 2 years at Toledo. So basically, all that production you heard about earlier, you might think, not much for 6 years. He's done it in the last 2. Like, he did very, very, very little at Ohio State. The coverage, I say, is decent. He's better in zone coverage. He's got the agility for zone coverage. He's not as good when it comes to other concepts. But, you can teach that with him. He doesn't pass rush. He's not much of a pass threat at all. I think he's got 1 pressure in his entire career. And he does need to work on his block shedding when it comes to bigger linemen coming up on him at the second level. But he's got the frame. He's got everything you need. Small school guy, but he went there to look for an opportunity and he took the most of it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And again, someone's going to take him for the special teams alone and they'll mold him into a great linebacker. And then the other one I wanted to mention was Edgerrin Cooper. He is the guy from Texas A&M. He's been there 4 years, but he had his breakout year this year. So he's also he's quite diverse when it comes to where he plays. So he plays mostly in the box, but he plays a good number of snaps in the slot as well. He plays on the D-line, on the edge, and he'll even play a couple at corner. So Texas A&M, they love to move him around, and they're able to get results with him. So this year, which has been his big one, his run defense is amazing. He grades nearly 90 every season, but he's had 27 pressures this year on the quarterback. He's got 10 sacks, 5 hits, and 12 hurries, but he had a really nasty spell between weeks 4 and 6. He had 7 sacks in 3 games against Auburn, Arkansas, and Alabama. So against Alabama, he sacked Jalen Milroe 3 times. And if you watch Bama, Milroe's hard to bring down because of his dual threat ability, because of his legs and ability to get out the pocket. You don't sack him that often. From linebacker, he got him 3 times, which just shows that when you deploy him right in the right system, he is a hell of a pass rushing threat. But he had a hot spell in that period. And then he finished off against LSU with 2 sacks and 2 quarterback hits this year. So he's put some good offensive linemen to waste. Tackling machine, had just 75 this year, not a lot, but he's played around a bit. He's got a 12% missed tackle rate, so little high. You want to bring that down a bit, but tough, physical, 2 forced fumbles. He's good in coverage. He gave up 14 receptions on 16 targets, but he doesn't give up much on the throws, just 7 yards. So he'll give up the throws, but he'll tackle and pursue and get them down really quickly. So he's not really that bad in coverage. You can sort of do anything with him. 6'3", 230 pounds again, perfect frame like Gann, but he's played in the Power Five against some really good teams. And I don't actually know why he's at the Shrine Bowl. I really feel like he should be at the Senior Bowl. He's going to go under the radar. He's one of the best guys there. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing him as well. So that's the linebackers. Let's move on and finish off with the secondary now. Some of the safeties at corners, and but anyhow, we'll go through there. Have you got a corner and a safety?
Yeah, I've got one of each. Yeah.
Right, I don't know. Right, I'm going to list who they've listed as corner here. We're going to do this. Ro Torrance from Arizona State, DeAndre Prince from Ole Miss, Dwight McLaughlin Jr. from Arkansas, Christian Roland Wallace from USC, MJ Devonshire from Pittsburgh, the Florida State pairing of Jarian Jones and Renato Green, Jarius Monroe from Tulane, Beanie Bishop Jr. from West Virginia, Daquan Hardy from Penn State, Chigozie Anusium from Colorado State, Miles Harden from South Dakota. We've got Quantez Stiggers, who's from the Toronto Argonauts. He's from Canada. He's in there. The Canadians are invading the Shrine Bowl. Then you've got Tarheeb Still from Maryland, Mikey Victor from Alabama State, and Josh Wallace from Michigan. All I'll say about this corner class is it's absolutely fucking loaded here. There's so much good talent on show, but who've you picked at corner, right?
I've picked who I think is the most interesting player at the whole Shrine Bowl and one of the most interesting players in the entire draft, and that is Quantez Stiggers, a player I've watched for a whole year now. Now, this guy is 22, hails from Atlanta, Georgia, 6 foot, about 190 pounds. Never played college football. At high school, played wide receiver, strong safety, and cornerback. Never went to college. Honestly, I don't know why. In 2022, his mum said, "Why don't you try playing the FCF, the fan-controlled football, like Terrell Owens and like Johnny Manziel? It was a gimmick." He did. He joined, got a trial. I couldn't find a team he played on, but while he was there, he was spotted by the former Toronto RC, who said, "I think you should try out." Like I say, so in January 2023, he enrolled. He was given a place for the camp at the University of Guelph, Guelph, don't know how to pronounce that, in May 2023 for Toronto Argonauts. Most thought he'll never make it. He'll get cut. He didn't not just make it. He made the team. He played 16 games. He had 56 tackles for 5 interceptions. He made the East All-Star team, and he was voted the most outstanding rookie of the year and helped that defense to a Grey Cup divisional CFL semi-final. Like I said, he's been granted special eligibility to be at the Shrine Bowl and enter the draft. Like I say, he's never outside collegiate. He's never played football in America apart from the SCF, so they've given him that special status to declare for the NFL draft. This kid has got what all the other guys don't want it. He's already played pro football. Like I say, he's already played, and he played part of one of the best units on the best teams in Canada. Like I say, and he has got size. He's got special teams abilities. He has got a fantastic nose for the ball. He's already been there and done it. Like I say, he'll feel like he should be having his name called in April. And the fact, like I say, he's never played in college, but the fact he kind of just skipped all that and went straight to essentially the pros, and now he's been granted his eligibility to potentially be picked up in the draft. He could be the next kid from Canada or the CFL to make it in the NFL. Like Nathan Rourke, like I say, went to the Jags, but he never actually played a snap. Like I say, he was released again. I expect to go back to Canada. But this kid has got a real shot of like being a UDFA or a day 3 pick and being on a practice squad and maybe seeing action. And not many Canadians can say that. Like I say, he plays with a chip on his shoulder. Like I say, that it feels like he's probably been overlooked in the past. Like I say, I don't know what he's done from the years between leaving high school and going to the FCF. But yeah, he's taken a very unconventional route to get to pro football. But in that time, I think he's learned a lot about himself. He's got the size, he's got speed, he's got the ability to finish, the ball hawking skills. All that has been shown this year. And I don't think that can be overlooked. I know people say, like, oh, it's the CFL, it's a passing league, it's built for defenders, which it is, dimensions of the pitch, it's different, but the level of competition he's played at, like I say, it can't really be sniffed at. He's been like in-game live experience as a pro, and none of these other guys can claim that right now. And for me, that just makes him such an interesting prospect. Like I say, I would absolutely love for the Lions to pick him up on like day 3 or like as a UDFA, like, because the kid's been there and done it. Like I say, he's shown that he can do it, and he just walked into Canada and like walked out with their biggest prize. Like I say, like the basically the MVP on defense of the year, like, and that's pretty outstanding. Like I say, he has got all the skills, everything you can't teach, and yeah, I think he's going to be a really interesting player to watch. Like I say, he's older, like he's the same age as a lot of these guys, but he hasn't been through the whole like education, NIL. He's not been through that. Like I say, he's just gone straight to the I'm just going to be a pro athlete straight away, and I find that really interesting about him.
It's like, how do you scout that? Like you said, is it a? It surely has to be a good thing that he's been against the. I don't know. How do you scout that? Like, do you consider it a net positive or a negative that he's not done college football?
For me, it's a positive. I know CFL, I know Canadian football is basically a different sport. Everything is nearly different. He only plays 3 downs. Okay, yeah, maybe you could hold that against him. He's never played a 4th down since high school. Like I say, he's used to getting off the field pretty quickly. But I know the CFL, and because it's a passing league and their fields are 120 yards and their end zones are 20 yards deep, like the secondary in CFL, everything is against them. It's a league designed to make playing defensive back redundant. Everything just craps on you. You can't cover that space. But this guy has bloody done a damn good job of it, holding his own on the outside. So for me, I think the experience he's got this year, invaluable. He's willing to draft. If you don't get it, probably go straight back to the Argonauts and try win a Grey Cup, like you say, because they are one of the best teams there. So for him, he can't lose. He'll already have a CFL contract. Every team in the league will want him in his back pocket. But he's got the chance to be the next Jason Wake. Could he be the next Cameron Wake? Could he be the next lad to make a splash in the NFL from the CFL? Like that's quite exciting, I think, for him. And yeah, he's young. He's got the size. So yeah, he's in true enigma.
Yeah, certainly one of the more intriguing storylines to watch out, as you mentioned. It just doesn't happen. So let's see how Qantas Stiggers does there. Corners for me, because I've picked 5 DBs for this, but the one I really want to talk about most is Mikey Victor. So we mentioned him during the Hula Bowl. So he's the cornerback from Alabama State, the HBCUs. He's been there for 2 years. So his deployment, 852 snaps at corner. He's played 46 in the box, though. We know the HBCUs to bring the big guys up there. So his stats, he's got 53 tackles, 11.7% missed tackle rate. He's 31 of 63 on targets, so he only gives up 46% on the targets thrown his way. He's got 3 interceptions, 14 pass breakups. He's 6'2", 209 pounds. So it's been a tough road for him. So he started off at JUCO at Ventura College for a year in 2019, I think it was. And he got an offer from UNLV in the Mountain West, but he went there and he spent 1 year as basically a sparse special team where he played like 25 snaps and he wasn't having any of that. So he dropped back down to the FCS. And this time, as I mentioned, he went to a HBCU. He's built like a prototype corner. 6'2", 209 pounds is almost perfect what you're looking for. Excellent length, excellent ball skills. You see it in this play. It allows him to break on routes, but he's also got the long speed to track the speedier guys downfield, like the 30, 40, 50-yard routes. He's got the speed to keep up with them. None of the speedsters can get away from him. His tackling at the catch point and in the open field, big strength for him because he's a really physical corner. It's in his nature, just goes up, makes big plays, and it's really improved vastly. So I tell you about the 11% missed tackle rate. It was 20% in year 1 at Alabama State for him. It dropped to 7% this year. So there was a lot of changes in the fundamentals of the way he tackled, his technique. He cleaned a lot up in just 1 season because, again, he's not played that much ball, really, since he did JUCO, since his 2 years here. He's a better zone coverage guy. due to his instincts. So he's playing in zone. He can sort of sniff out the plays again and make plays as he's happened while he's sat there in zone. But he shows promise in press as well. The issue is at the line of scrimmage when he's trying to jam receivers. You know, a lot of corners can't do that, including Cameron Sutton. But you know, I'm going to shoot that there. He needs to work on that. But if you're able to sort of get that into his game, increase the physicality at the line of scrimmage, get him in press, all of a sudden you can do so much with him. He plays a little high at times as well, but it's not that big an issue, but just little things that he can work on. Can he do it against higher level opponents? Because, you know, we love the HBCUs, but it is down in the FCS. Can he do it against these wide receivers from the group of five, power five? He's got the intangibles to do so, but is he able to make that step up? But do not bet against him. He's not a pass rusher. He doesn't pass rush at all, but you don't really need him to here. Maybe you can play him at safety at the next level because, again, the length and range he has, he might like getting sat back there at free safety. So schematically, you can change a bit round with him as well if you don't fancy a corner. But he's got all the intangibles. He's got all the skills you need. Just needs to refine it all. And, I mean, don't knock the HBCU DBs. He's going to look to follow in the steps of Joshua Williams, the guy corner 2 years ago, Fayetteville State. He's a Super Bowl winner. He got a ring as a starter for the Kansas City Chiefs. They create some mean guys there who play great ball. And, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. If you want to read more on him and do bits, because I did use one of the articles here, go over to drafthbcuplayers.com. Our good friend Gerald, he writes for that. A lot of guys do. They tell you everything about the HBCU draft prospects. But Mikey Victor, I really, really like, and I'm looking forward to seeing him. He's certainly one of the big sleepers at corner. One of the other guys, quickly want to mention, Josh Wallace, another who's worked his way up the hard way here, corner. He spent 4 years at UMass, and then he spent this year at Michigan. You Michigan fans will know him. Like, go from playing UMass to winning a natty, it's crazy. So experienced. 2,300 snaps at corner, 262 in the box, 143 at slot, 59 on the D-line. He gets moved around all over the place. He's had 189 tackles, 10% missed tackle rate, 2 forced fumbles, 94 of 172 on targets, which is 55%, 23 pass breakups, 3 interceptions. Like, he's a ball hawk, and he's played really well for most of his career on a UMass team that's been bad. Now, their defense is actually usually pretty decent, but he was one of the figure-headed leaders there. He was the leader of the secondary. He was team captain. He worked his way up in 4 years with the Minutemen, played a ton for them. He saw his opportunity for his last year to come up. Michigan took him in, and again, he might not have played a lot. Michigan DB room's good, and it's deep. He's played as a starter there, and he's now a natty winner. And he looked really good this year. He didn't put up the fancy stats, but he was locked down. He barely gave up any receptions at all this year. He's 6 foot 190, so a little on the smaller side, but he's proved himself at the G5 level. He's gone out and won himself a natty in 1 year as part of the best defense in college football, really. I absolutely love him. So Josh Wallace is in there as well. And then Renardo Green was the other one I very quickly want to mention before we go on to safeties. The 5-year safety from Florida State. I know I shall be pleased I'm talking about him here, but he's, again, been in one of the best defenses in the country. That Florida State defense, the D-line, linebackers, the secondary, consistently been great. He's played there forever. And he's one of the most versatile guys here. So he's had 1,300 snaps at corner, but he's played 210 in the slot. He's played 168 at free safety. He's played 160 in the box. So he does a lot of work all over this defense. The stats may not back it up, but again, a lot of mouths in there to feed. 144 tackles, just under 12% on missed tackles. He's got a forced fumble. He's 64 of 118 on targets, which is 54%. He's got an interception, 21 pass breakups. Another smaller guy. He's 6 foot. He's 186 pounds. But he did a lot of work this year. It was his first year where they used him as a pass rusher. He had 4 pressures, a sack, a hit, and 2 hurries. He'd not had a single one in his career before that. But he was targeted 60 times through the air. Teams tried to pick on him. He only gave up 31 receptions on that, nearly a bang on 50% there. He had 13 pass breakups, an interception. He's got an eye for the ball. He's got a nose to get him where he needs to be and breaking them up, even if he doesn't get all the picks on there. His coverage has been excellent this year. The run defense, he graded at 91 last year, which was really good. It dropped off to 60 this season. I don't know what happened there, but he's shown that he can be an elite corner throughout all facets. He's a day 3 pick, but given where he's been, how much experience he's got, how much versatility he's got, how much special teams experience he's got as well. He's played nearly 300 snaps on special teams. He's a sleeper corner in day 3 for me, someone you want to pick up and stash and develop. There's a lot you can do with him there. So, yeah, that is it for the corners. And then we'll finish off with the safeties, even though some of them are corners, but they're getting listed as safeties. So we've got Dadrian Taylor-Demison from Texas Tech, Mark Perry from TCU, Dominique Hampton from Washington, Omar Brown from Nebraska, Trey Taylor from Air Force, Kenny Logan Jr. from Kansas, Tyler Owens from Texas Tech, Ryan and Antony from Ole Miss, Ryan Watts from Texas, Jalen Carlise from Missouri, Marcellus Dial from South Carolina, and Jalen Key from Alabama. Who do you have in the safety room, Ryan? And bear in mind, somehow we haven't overlapped a single player yet on our roster. So let's see if we can just do this. Who have you got?
I've got DTD. I've got Dadrian Taylor.
Oh, I've not got him. They're completely different teams. That's amazing. Anyhow,
Texas Tech. I'm not going to call him a safety because, well, that would be unfair to him. The guy can do everything. Now, he's built like Brian Branch. He's only 5'10", like 90 kilos. Like I say, so, but he's a long-term starter. 2021 to 2023, 207 tackles, 22 passes defended, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, just 10 receptions. He is prolific. This year, he was an all Big 12 second team, and his nickname apparently is the Rabbit because he's small and slender, but he covers ground. Apparently, he's expecting to run a 4.55. He is pretty shifty, especially in a straight line. He's small, but he's smart. He's got great ball skills. He understands that he can play nickel, he can play free safety, he can play strong safety. He probably played corner. He can play everything. He's been asked to do it all. He understands that the way to deliver blows is to take the right angles, is to cover ground quickly, and to wrap up or drop the shoulder. He doesn't need the weight or size that he lacks. He's able to deliver strikes or undercut routes, which he's really good at. Like you say, he's a turnover machine in the last few years. He understands route recognition. He understands when to try and go over the top, when to quickly jump on a route and come underneath and try to take it the other way. In the schemes, like say guys that want to play 2-3 safeties next level, he is going to be probably very accustomed to them. Right, say someone that you'll move around a bit like a Swiss Army knife or a bit like a chess piece, happy in all assets of the game. And despite lack of size or everything, he likes a tackle. Right, say he does not shy away from a running back. He will not shy away from tackling a tight end. He will finish plays, and he plays bigger than his size, bigger than his weight. He's a pretty plucky little kid, and I think he'll do well to stand out of this safety class because, like I say, he's versatile and he's also got a pretty strong resume behind the back it up. Red Raiders have very rarely had a bad defense. Like I said, not the best team in overall, but their defense has produced some good players sent to the draft. And this guy probably should be the next one in line. Like I say, he has got a really good nose for the ball, but he's also not scared to drop the shoulder and lay a hit on someone, no matter how big or how much they outweigh him. Like I say, he'll give it his all to bring them down in the open field. So yeah, I really like him. And like I said, in fact, he will probably be a nickel corner at next level. I think you could put him in the slot, and I'd expect him to hold his own out there.
Again, I can't believe that we picked a whole team of different players, but that's what I mean. There's so much great talent here at the Shrine Bowl. I'm looking forward to seeing so many of these guys. So yeah, we've got DTD there. Finishing off with my 2 safeties. I say I've got 2 safeties here, but one of them is a corner. I don't know why he's a safety. So the first guy is Marcellus Dial. He is the South Carolina cornerback. He spent 3 years there. He spent actually the first 2 years of his collegiate career. He was at the Georgia Military College. He did 2 years of military football in college before spending 3 years with the Gamecocks. And credit to him, his first year he came up out of a much lower school, started 7 games, hasn't looked back. He's been a lockdown corner for them ever since. He's played 1,818 snaps at corner. He has 127 in the box, 115 in the slot. So again, plays a little bit of all over, whatever you need him to do. 118 tackles, 11% missed tackle rate, a forced fumble. He's 84 of 161 on targets, which is just 52%, 3 interceptions, 24 pass breakups. Again, another of the 6-footers, 6 foot, 195 pounds. And again, love this guy. Captain on his team, has come up from a smaller school and he hit the ground running. His run defense is tremendous. You know, he's got the tough, gritty style he's learned in the military academy. They run the ball a lot. You've got to be very physical. You've got to be very dominant. He's done it in the SEC every year he's been in there. He had a little bit of a lull in 2022, but for the most part, he's been a well above average run defender. Tackling has been really good. Again, the missed tackles at 11%, but it's sort of, he has a couple of bad games every now and then, but most of the time, his tackling is absolutely spot on. He's very disciplined. He is very physical. I love this guy. 3 years in the SEC. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does here. He's probably going to be one of the better corners on show, but there's an absolute ton of talent. So we'll see how Marcellus Dial does there. But really like him. And then the other one, Jalen Carley's. So he was in one of my mocks last year, I believe. But that Missouri secondary has been ridiculously good this year. So everybody knows that Chris Abrams-Drain, one of my favorite corners in this draft. I want to draft him for the Lions. But then you've got Ennis Rakestraw as well, who people are saying could be a first-round pick. And then you've got Carley's at safety as well. That Missouri team is just a hotbed of DB talent at the minute. He's been there 4 years, 1,345 snaps at free safety, 507 in the box, 320 at slot, 248 at corner, 55 on the D-line. They ask him to do a lot on this Missouri defense, and he just goes out and absolutely kicks ass with it. His stats, he's got 232 tackles. He does have a 16% missed tackle rate over his career, which is an issue with him, which he does need to address. But generally, the safeties, it is a little bit higher because they have to do a lot more work when it comes to the tackling there. So you've got 3 forced fumbles, 9 interceptions, 5 pass breakups, 15 quarterback pressures, because as I say, they do bring him up to the line to blitz, and he can do it. He's 83 of 115 on targets, which is 72% that he gives up. But in general, doesn't give up a lot of yak, keeps it in front of him, tackles quick. There's a lot to love about the versatile DB from Missouri. I say he's been on one of their best teams this year. He's got a lot of his pressures in his career this season. He's got a sack. He's got 10 hurries. So they've been creating more packages for him as a pass rusher. He's got a ton of tackles every season. He's very tough, very durable. He's missed very little time. He's got 2,500 snaps in 4 years. That includes his freshman year, where he didn't play as much. As he hits hard. He's got the forced fumbles in there. Got a nose for the ball as well when needs to. He moves so quick. He's got great game speed. These Missouri DBs know how to find the football, and they know how to make plays on them. They don't get the flashy interception stats or anything like that, but they're just ball hawks. And he is one of them. Like I say, the tackling is the main issue with him. So if he has good shrine ball, he shows good ability there, if he shows he's learning his techniques, etc., he's going to be one of the better safeties in this draft, in a class that doesn't have a ton of talent at the top. And I would know because I love my safeties, but I've been watching him for a while now, and he's just been consistently good on what has mostly been a bad Missouri team. So Carley's and Dial are the ones I'm watching there. And then finish it off with special teams. I've not actually picked anyone here, but just for the point of filling the roster out. So special teams, The punters, Matthew Habel from Vanderbilt, Ryan Recco from BYU. He was at the Hula Bowl. Kickers, you got Cam Little from Arkansas. He's a kicker slash punter. He does both. And then you've got the thicker kicker, Harrison Mevis from Missouri. Would 100% be interested in the Lions drafting him. And then your long snappers, you've got Joe Shimko from NC State and Marco Ortiz from Nebraska, who was on the Hula Bowl roster. But I think overall, looking through this, right, I know everyone loves the Senior Bowl and the big names are there, but the Shrine, it's getting bigger and better every year. And there is, I mean, for me, there's just an absolute treasure trove of talent waiting to be discovered here. There's so many guys who are going to go under the radar in the draft and are going to end up being great draft picks.
Yeah, there's some really good positional groups here. A lot of guys, like you say, it feels like this year as well, like, could be wrong, but more FCS guys than you usually ever see. Could be wrong, but it just feels like a lot of them now. Like I said, the D1, the FCS, and the D2 guys, like I say, they're finally starting to like crack the Shrine Bowl. Senior Bowl, you don't always see a lot of them, but the Shrine Bowl, you do get a lot of them, a lot of the smaller school guys. So this is really where they come to try and test their metal against some of the better guys. Yeah, the Shrine Bowl, yeah, I'd say it's nearly on par with the Senior Bowl. It just don't get the level of marketing. It don't have the sponsorship, like I say, with Reese's and that, like I say, but it's no less lacking in talent or future potential.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is so fun. I'm going to enjoy watching this, maybe more so than the Senior Bowl, because this is where you find your draft diamonds. This is where you find the guys.
Household names, most of it.
Yeah,
You already know about them.
yeah, exactly. You want to
They
find
won't
the
even
guys.
play as well. Like, they'll play like 5 snaps to quarterbacks, and that'll be it. It'll be done.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas here, I mean, there is tons. So the quarterback room is I'll say this, and I will say this again. The quarterback room is absolutely loaded here. Like completely, there's so many good corners. Half of them could be drafted like pretty high. But you've got good talent all over. So I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be great. And yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about some of the players that we like here. And as I say, if there's anyone else on this roster you want us to have a look at, want us to look into, just let us know, and we will quite happily do that for you. Is there anything else you want to mention before I get through all the closing notes and everything, Ryan?
No, I say
Nice.
we're finally at the point where, like I say, one thing is about to end and the other is just about to begin. Essentially, this is its all whole on entity, basically in draft season.
Yeah,
Over.
I love this time. Like this week has it's been like the first proper week. I know the Lions, because the Lions are still going in football, so I'm still way too vested in that. It's like at this point,
I've seen so
usually,
many mock drafts like this week.
yeah, it's finally only just started to have. Usually we're sick of mock drafts by now. Like now I've not seen any. And there's like still so many players, but reading up on and looking tape on so many players this week has been fun. I've really enjoyed this. So in terms of next shows, as mentioned, the main Detroit Lions podcast we do will be back on Friday, the 26th of January. We will be previewing the NFC Championship game against the San Francisco 49ers. And again, no matter how many times I say it, still don't feel like it's real, but we are in the NFC Championship. So come join us for that. And then me and Ryan will be back next week, hopefully the 31st of January on the Wednesday, and we will be doing the final of our previews for the big all-star games, the Senior Bowl, the big daddy of them all, and we'll probably do a similar concept to what we've done tonight. We'll pick guys at every position we want to talk about and then just go into detail about a few of them. So it's going to be good fun. We'll do it all again. So that is everything. And then, of course, the reaction show on Sunday. You want to join the guys as the game goes on, because we are the late game. It's going to be a midnight one here for us, but we're all for it. So if you want to join the guys for that, please do so. You can find us all over the internet. Roar of the Lions UK, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Our Facebook page, Roar of the Lions UK, our group, Detroit Lions Fans UK One Pride Worldwide. Our website, roarofthelionsuk.com. You can find articles on there as well, and you can get in touch with us through that if you wish to do so. Obviously, don't forget to subscribe and rate us if you enjoy the show. 5-star would be lovely, but you know, I say we've got feedback form. If there's anything you want us to do with that, great. Anyhow, just remains for me to thank Ryan. It's been great talking about the Shrine Bowl this evening, and we'll be back in a week to talk about the Senior Bowl, and then the week after both the games happen, and we'll be able to break down the games when they are done and let you know who did good and who has room for improvement. But just remains for me again, as I say, to thank Rye. We shall see you again very soon. Go Lions, one pride, kick the 49ers ass in the NFC Championship game. Au revoir.